I'm going to explain the two biggest email mistakes, and you're probably going to laugh when you hear both of them. So I'll start by saying the first one. Well, the first biggest email mistake, and let me just clarify here that these mistakes are on par with each other. I don't consider one to be worse than the other, and I'll explain why once I've said the second one. But the first one is emailing your list too much. Now, there's actually a whole section in this course on frequency, on how often you should email your list. And your goal is to email your list often enough so that you maximize revenue, but not too much so that you get them disinterested just by bombarding them with too much information and too many sales messages. So you don't want to email your list too much because this creates burnout. People get sick of hearing constantly stuff that's not good. Now, if you had really awesome stuff, like maybe you have a daily quote of the day or some kind of daily stock trading tip, well, then you could get away with emailing them daily. But in general, you probably don't want to email people every day unless you have really, really, really good content every day, if it's a daily type of publication. But emailing people like 4 times a day I think it's very horrible. I actually ran into a guy at a seminar about a year ago, and he had a list of 80,000 people, and I went to his website and checked it out and actually got him to do a promotion for one of my sites. So we set it all up, and it didn't take us long, and I watched him log into his account, and I saw it was like 79,000 and some odd subscribers. It was really close to 80,000. So I watched him hit send. He sent the email, and we made a few dollars, but a week later I called him up on the phone, and I was wondering why it didn't really have a mega oomph to it. So I started talking to him. We made about $1,000, but for that type of promotion with that size list, I expected a lot bigger of a response. So I just talked with him a little bit because who knows, maybe I could help him, and maybe we could both make a little more money off this deal. So to make a long story short, he ended up telling me that he sends out, on average, between 4 and 8 emails per day to his list with different types of offers. They're basically all offers to buy things on his site. He has a huge kind of site, and he's constantly updating the inventory of the website. But several times a day, there's even days where he sends out 10 times a day, he sends an email out to his list. So when he just sent the one email out for my list, the people are a little bit desensitized. They don't read all the emails because they get so many emails from him. And I would be willing to suspect that on his list, a large portion of the people don't read any emails anymore because it's not like he's giving them extremely valuable content. He's just blasting them with, hey, here's a new thing you got to buy. Here's another thing you got to buy. And he doesn't ever give any articles or any type of quality information. He just blast, blast, blast. So once a day would be the maximum that I would suggest over a prolonged period of time. Now, you may have a special promotion where you may email a few times within a day or maybe daily for a few days. That's okay. But emailing too much to your list over time is going to create a burnout. And here's a simple test. Don't send an email unless it's quality content that these people would be willing to pay for. So, of course, you're going to have your sales messages. There's a strategy to put your sales messages in here properly where people won't mind it. But the other stuff you send, you need to send other types of content. I'm going to elaborate on this further in the course. I'm just summarizing right here, right now, just so you get the overview of the principle. If you're giving away free content, it can't just be filler junk that you're sending out just to send out content. It needs to be good stuff that they would be willing to pay for, although since you're giving it to them for free, you probably wouldn't expect them to actually pay for it. But these are things that they would actually be excited about finding out about and interested in hearing. So if you're doing that every time you send an email, it's unlikely that you're going to burn people out by emailing to them too much. But what that'll do is it'll force you not to send emails unless they're really good. And then that's going to make it so you don't send them too often because realistically, how many awesome emails can you write per day that people would be willing to pay for on a consistent basis? Seriously, it takes a little bit longer to crank them out at that quality. You don't want to email to your list too much. It creates burnout. But the flip side of it is the second biggest mistake, or the other biggest mistake you can make, is not emailing to your list enough. Now, I know this is funny because I'm telling you, the two biggest mistakes are emailing to your list too much and then not emailing to your list enough. But this makes sense. Too much is too bad, and too little is too bad. Exercise. If you exercise too much, you can actually hurt yourself, and it's actually bad for your body to exercise too much. Well, not exercising enough is also bad, right? If you just sit in front of the computer and never get any physical activity, well, you're going to grow, but you're not going to grow in the right direction. It's similar with exercise. You need to do at least a marginal to a moderate amount of good exercise. Now, there's athletes out there who exercise a lot, and they're on the upper end, because if they were to do too much more, they might actually be harming their bodies. But within a certain range, there's a certain amount of exercise you want to be doing to maintain good health, and anything less than that is not enough. And then there's a certain peak where if you exercise that amount, you're in peak physical condition, but if you were to exercise more, you'd probably be harming your body, and there could actually be negative results. You could start burning muscle instead of building muscle and things like that. So there's a range between the minimum that you should be doing just to barely be healthy, and then the maximum to be in peak shape before you start hurting yourself. There's a range in there. Well, it's the same thing with emailing to your list. Not enough means that you won't make enough money, you won't get the kind of traffic, you won't get the results you want. Too much means you're going to burn out your list. And if people stop reading emails from you, well, you've kind of lost them as a subscriber. Having their name in your database doesn't mean anything if they're not going to open the email from you and read it because they're interested in what you're saying. So if you don't email your list enough, they're going to forget about you. They're constantly being bombarded with new websites and new offers and new stuff. By sending out an email, now I would say minimum, at least every 2 weeks, you probably want to send out some kind of an email. This can be pre-programmed into one of your sequences. You don't have to manually do this. At least every 2 weeks, and I'm going to explain a little bit more later, but when they initially sign up to your list, you want to email them to build the relationship. You want to email them a bunch of times in a row, kind of quickly, more condensed. Over time, you want something to go out at least every 2 weeks, maybe every week if you choose to do so. Even a few times a week's okay. I'm going to explain more of that theory in the frequency section of this course. You want to email them enough so they don't forget about you. And if you don't email them enough, you make less money because you have less people going to pages where you have special offers and special opportunities and ways for you to make money. They can click on certain links and you can earn revenue through advertising and stuff like that. Well, if you have less emails going out, you have less opportunities for you to make money. Now, again, you can't overdo it because that's going to cause people to stop reading your emails. But you need to do it enough so that you make more money than if you're not utilizing your list.